Four divisions, four hosts, all battling it out for the Holy GrAHL of the American Hockey League, the Calder Cup. This is the Holy GrAHL podcast with Andrew Rinaldi, Deana Weinheimer, Jeremy Paul, Michael Liu, and Zack Powell.
Welcome to a special edition of the Holy GrAHL podcast. This is episode number 16. And here at the Holy GrAHL, we are all about the American Hockey League and their yearly race to their Holy GrAHL, the Calder Cup. Now, before we get too far into this episode, we're going to go ahead and go around the screen here and introduce ourselves to anyone who may be new. So we're going to keep it simple. Let's just go ahead and go in alphabetical order. So Andrew, my friend, you are first.
I love it. And yeah, we're coming to you live here, and I'm Andrew Rinaldi. This is my second year at Field Pass Hockey. I cover the Chicago Wolves and the Grand Rapids Griffins. So very centrally placed and ready to roll.
And I am Deana Weinheimer. I am your AHL editor and Cleveland Monsters correspondent, well into my third season here at Field Pass. And yeah, just happy to be here today.
What's up, y'all? I'm coming to you live from Grand Rapids, Michigan. My name is Jeremy Paul, and I cover the Rochester Americans for Field Pass Hockey in my first season. So been a blast thus far to work with the amazing team over at Field Pass and the amazing writers. But more especially, it's been amazing working with you all, and we've got a fun one, our first live show. This is a big moment. This is a big moment for the Holy GrAHL. So I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight.
And I'm Zack Power in my third season with Field Pass Hockey. It's an exciting time to be live because I know we have a good show coming up.
All right, guys. Well, let's just go ahead and get right into the show. But wow, this could not be timed any better. Before we get into the fan picks and all of that, we have a trade to announce. I mean, come on, what better timing? So the Tampa Bay Lightning, yes, I know these are NHL teams, but this absolutely impacts the AHL affiliates. So the Tampa Bay Lightning have acquired center Anthony Richard from the Nashville Predators. Going the other way, center Jimmy Huntington. Now this season, Richard has 7 goals and 5 assists in 31 games with the Milwaukee Admirals. Huntington has 6 goals, 6 assists in 27 games with the Crunch. Now, these are 2 players that have only played with one organization their entire pro career. So what are your thoughts on this trade, guys?
Well, I covered Richard last year when he and all the other Milwaukee players were affiliated with the Wolves for that weird season that was last season. But he was one of my favorite players to cover because he on the penalty kill, he really came up to play. And I swear he scored more goals shorthanded than he gave up when they were down a man. It was kind of amazing. He's fast, he's tenacious on the puck, and he might not have the best hands or the best finish, but sometimes he just has the will to get those pucks into the net. And sometimes I think he kind of struggled to get a bit of a role with this Admirals team that, the wheels were kind of spinning in the mud early on, and now they're kind of starting to find their groove. And it's just, sometimes it's just not really a good fit. And I think he'll be awesome for Syracuse.
Big respect, too, for staying on the team for so long. It's not often that you kind of see that in the AHL, especially nowadays, because it's most of the time flip-flop. And, you kind of get into these little ruts where you just can't find that spark sort of thing. It's an even trade all around. Let's not forget that at all. But, I mean, when you kind of get that sort of little rut and, hey, maybe a little change of scenery will do something good for both of them.
And we're going to go ahead and get into a little bit of the week in review, where we go over just some of the more newsworthy events in the American Hockey League for the past week. But first, we do want to take a moment to recognize and mourn the passing of Mike Nikoluk. Now, Nikoluk was one of the most productive point getters in the history of the American Hockey League. I mean, even 50 years after his retirement, he still ranks third on the all-time list with 686 assists, is sixth with 881 points, and fifth in games played at 1,069, all in the American Hockey League. Now, he was on the inaugural Rochester Americans roster in 1956 and 57. After one season, went to the Hershey Bears and then spent 14 seasons in Hershey. He helped bring the Bears 2 Calder Cup championships in 1959 and 1969. Now, this is a player that never topped the 20 goal mark, but he did record at least 50 assists in 7 straight seasons from 1963 to 1970. He's the all-time leader for Bears in games played at 972, assists at 636, and points with 808. His number 8 also hangs in the rafters. Nikoluk died just a few days ago at 87 years of age.
I mean, we just got done talking about like how wild it is, and granted, a totally different time in hockey, but how wild it is to stick around with any one team for such a long time. I mean, just the idea of winning a Calder Cup 10 years apart with any one franchise is just kind of like, you think about that today and any professional sport, and that just seems like an absolute, implausible thing nowadays. And to be just such a cornerstone of that franchise, to mean so much to that franchise, to be a part of such a historic history with the Rochester Americans also being on that inaugural roster. I mean, just the man was full of history in this league, and obviously a sad one.
And he backstopped one of the most prestigious franchises in this league. I mean, we're well aware with the more recent successes of the Bears, and I know Zack's quite aware of it, but like historically, like this is Hershey's just always been good in the history of this league, and this really goes out to show it. I was kind of blown away by some of those offensive numbers. Sometimes we think of those early eras of hockey as kind of not quite as eye popping as we think of the game today, but these guys had skill and they could play, and our heart goes out to the friends and the families, of course, of Nikoluk.
I think about just the accomplishment too, because the American Hockey League was so vastly different than what we know it today. And although that may seem a little improbable to kind of hit that mark, that milestone today, you also have to remember this was a rough 'em, tough 'em league. Like you sat down there, you're in with the dogs, right? Like you're going down there and you're going to get bet up every single game. You're not speeding and flying around. McDavid wasn't scooting past everybody. You were getting checked at the blue line. So that's a pretty cool stat right there.
Now, we also do need to mention Bill Needham, who also passed within the last few days. Now, Needham was a mainstay of the Cleveland Barons from 1957 to 1971. He played all of his 981 AHL games with the team. He also set the AHL record for consecutive games played at 526. Talk about an Iron Man streak. He was the captain for 8 of his 16 seasons in Cleveland. And when he was with the team, he played in the playoffs 15 out of 16 years. He was voted as the most valuable defenseman in the 1966-67 season and was named to the league All-Star First Team. In 1980, he was inducted to the Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame. And once again, he died this past week at 90 years of age.
Yeah, I want to talk about Iron Man. I mean, in that era for 526 straight games, that's a man literally made out of iron there. So again, incredible accomplishments. And again, our heart goes out to the friends and the Needham family.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into some news, because I know we got a few people watching that want us to get into naming the team. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. So first of all, AHL Player of the Week. For the second week in a row, we're looking to the Milwaukee Admirals for their AHL Player of the Week. This time, goaltender Connor Ingram. He stopped 92 of 93 shots that he faced last week. In that span, he went 3-0-0. A .033 goals against average and a .989 save percentage. That is unbelievable. And of course, that included his league-leading 3rd and 4th shutouts of the season.
Those numbers don't even seem real.
No.
Those are playoff numbers for a team that needs to play playoff hockey. That's great.
For a team that is playing playoff hockey right now.
Well, they're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. And it's a new month. We're in the first part of February. I personally can't believe it. But that means we have new league award winners to announce. Today, the American Hockey League announced the following winners for the month of January. Heading out to Bakersfield first, forward Seth Griffith is the player of the month. Utica's Alexander Holtz is rookie of the month. He is from the Utica Comments. And from the Bridgeport Islanders, Jacob Skarek is the goaltender of the month.
Congratulations to all of them. I was like really impressed to find a goaltender from Bridgeport winning goaltender of the month, just kind of considering where they're at in the standings and where they've been all season. So, kudos to that young man for kind of, I don't want to say persevering, but I mean, for kind of knocking off the narrative that, it's just the Islanders. He played great, and it's just all month, it's a consistency thing. So good for him.
I mean, I guess many pucks don't make their way to the basement. What can you say?
Oh, that was low.
Oh, no.
So it's Bridgeport.
Oh,
I didn't say it. Wasn't me this time.
Yeah, Bridgeport fans are asking you to say something, though, Zach, because they're really needing a resurgence in the standing. So
I just think that they're a really great club.
that sounds it.
Well, let's talk about something that truly is really great, and that is big congratulations go out to Ontario Reign captain Brett Suter, who recently played his 1,000th career pro game. And then another big high here. Let's take a minute to talk Nathan Walker. He got his first AHL hat trick last Friday. I believe he got his first NHL hat trick earlier on this season, if I remember right. And this time it only took him 8 minutes to secure the hat trick.
8 minutes.
If I recall, he got his NHL hat trick really fast too. So big, big congrats, and we'll throw a couple shrimps on the bobby for our resident Aussie here in the A.
I forgot that.
I'll tell you what, your Australian accent's not as strong as your Swedish. So
I guess I'll take that as a compliment, because I wasn't really going for the Aussies there so much. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you did pretty well, to be honest with you, but all right, guys. Well, it's about that time that we announce, and let's spread the word, the FPH AHL All-Star Team.
Oh, baby.
All right. So this is the moment that everyone has tuned in for. It is time to announce, like I said, the Field Pass Hockey. I'm so excited about this. AHL All-Star Team as voted on by you, the fans. So first, we want to express all of our thanks to our sponsor, Pure Performance, People United, reaching everyone. You can find them over on Twitter at Pure Performan, PERFORMAN, the number 1, and then the number 3. And then also, we want to say thank you to everyone who voted. Now, let's get to the results. Now, only the top 12 forwards, the top 6 defensemen, and the top 2 goalies made our list, just like any typical hockey roster. So, drum roll, please. How about we get started with our forwards? All right. So, coming in at number 1 with 17.08% of the vote, we have Garrett Pilon out of Hershey. Second, I will say I am quite impressed with the Hershey fans who came out of the woodwork to vote for their players. In second was Andrew Poldarowski out of Chicago with 15.83% of the votes. Now, Pilon was solidly in third most of the voting period, and then within the last day or two just catapulted up to that number 1 spot. So Way to go, Bears fans. In third place, out of Cleveland, is Trey Fix-Wolansky with 10.42% of the vote. Way to go, Monsters fans. I am so proud of you guys. Then out of Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Valtteri Puustinen with 6.25% of the votes. And then going down the rest of the list, we have Dylan Secura from Colorado. Nathan Walker, just got done talking about him from the Springfield. I always want to call them, it's the Thunderbirds now, right?
Yeah.
I always want to call them the Falcons because for so long it was the Falcons that were with the Blue Jackets. So Nathan Walker out of Springfield. Then we have Gabriel Fortier from the Syracuse Crunch, Chase DeLeo out of the Utica Comets, Lucas Reichel from Rockford, TJ Tynan out of Ontario, Matthias Michelli from the Tucson Roadrunners, and Jack Quinn out of Rochester. Now, I will say that we do have a tie for that 12th spot there. So we have an alternate, I guess, a healthy scratch, if you will, from our forward group. And that's going to be Braden Tracy out of San Diego.
It's a pretty good squad.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'll take that team against just about any other.
Yeah, it's a very, very solid group. So let's go ahead and look at defense. So coming in at number 1, we have Joey Keane out of Chicago with 17.14% of the votes. And then literally tied with him, Lucas Johansson out of Hershey. Again, the Bears fans turning up here with also 17.14% of the vote. And third place was Jake Christensen out of Cleveland with 11.43% of the vote. Rounding out the defensive squad, Pierre-Olivier Joseph out of Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Sean Days out of Syracuse, and Colorado's Jordan Gross. And then finally, our goaltenders with a outstanding 27.31% of the vote. Wolves fans, you got in your goaltender in A2 Makaniemi. And then in second, again, Hershey. You guys tried so hard. I was getting nervous there for a minute, but Jet Greaves is your second goaltender on the Field Pass Hockey AHL All-Star list with 17.69. So again, Makaniemi and Jet Greaves. So, okay, guys, what do you think of this group? Definitely a few surprises here, but honestly, that's the magic behind the fan vote.
And I love our fans. I love our fans more than words could ever begin to describe. In a world where Dustin Wolf plays goaltender, in that world, all love to Jet Greaves. I think Itu Makaniemi, yes. Dustin.
I think like TJ Tynan being like on the kind of edge, like just making it a bit over the top. I was like, I think we clearly need to get more of the West Coast in on this, because you could definitely see the Midwestern appeal of the whole pod with the big Cleveland, Hershey, Chicago turnout. And I mean, for a while, the Wolves were leading in all three positions. I mean, Wolves fans were turning up, and then I guess they saw that cushion up there for Podorowski. They're like, okay, he's the leading scorer. We can kind of take a break on this one. And while they were stuffing the ballot boxes for Makaniemi, then Chocolate Town came in from back door, and then Pilon took over. But I guess, second place isn't too bad for Potts.
And can we just talk about how Hershey fans just never disappoint with anything? Really, like Teddy Bear Toss, like fan votes, like they're there. And so there was kind of a couple of suspects, we talked about Wolf and whatever, but I'm sort of surprised, but I'm not, because they're Hershey fans and they're pretty devoted people.
Yeah, it seemed like for the entire portion of the voting, at the top three, we were always looking at Chicago, at the top, and then kind of jostling for that second place was always Hershey and Cleveland. So great job to all those fan bases. Thank you guys for turning out, for voting. But what I loved is in these rosters, there is a really nice mix of the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Now, we all know here at Field Pass Hockey, our writers are more Eastern Conference based, but somehow, some way, the word got out to the Western Conference, and boy, did they show up. I mean, Dylan Sekura being up there in the top, top 5 in voting. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, Stuart Skinner being in the top 4 out of Bakersfield for goalies. I mean, these guys showed up. So great job, Western Conference fans. You gave us a really fascinating list to look at and work with here.
Does anybody else think that Scott Perunovich should just be an honorary member of the Field Pass Hockey AHL All-Star team? Because, my goodness.
He's the captain of the team in my heart. So, sorry, Potts.
He can be the honorary, well, I guess he could be like the special celebrity guest.
Yeah. We can invite him to the skills competition. He just can't play on the team.
There you go.
Maybe he can go around with like a flamethrower sort of thing and just like
well, if he lost that job, we have to find someone else for it. So I guess that would be the next best.
I tried myself to be on that team with the,
The resume speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, stay tuned for just 1 second because we got something very special to share with you guys. Now we have a guest coming up.
I guess you say.
This is who it might be. Let's take a look. Now that we've gone through and announced your Field Pass Hockey AHL All-Star team, we have got a very special guest here on the show. So our guest is currently a forward with the Cleveland Monsters and a prospect with the NHL's Columbus Blue Jackets. He actually began his hockey career in the Alberta Major Bantam Hockey League and was originally drafted by the Prince Albert Raiders of the Western Hockey League. After a little bit of a shuffle, a little bit of a trade, he then went on to play with the Edmonton Oil Kings. And fun fact, if this ever comes up in trivia, guys, our guest actually scored the first ever goal at Rogers Place. So just put that in your back pocket. But prior to the start of the 2018-19 season, our Edmonton native guest was named the 12th captain in modern Edmonton Oil Kings franchise history. Then in the 2018 NHL entry draft, he was selected in the 7th round by the Blue Jackets. After 3 seasons, he made his professional hockey debut with the Cleveland Monsters, where he is now in his 3rd season. So he's been there just as long as I've been covering the team. Hard to believe, but right now he is 2nd on the team in goals scored and highest of active players in points per game. So now, as you guys just heard, he is also a member of the 2022 Field Pass Hockey AHL All-Star team as voted on by the fans. So let's welcome Trey Fix-Wolansky to the Holy GrAHL podcast. Trey, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Now, Trey, it's been no secret that this has been a challenging few seasons. I mean, not only for the American Hockey League, the Monsters, and of course you yourself. So from the constantly changing protocols, of course, you've had to deal with injuries and having to swap divisions. How have you and the team dealt with it all?
Yeah, I think obviously last year or 2 years ago, COVID ending our year short, I think no one really expected that. And then no one also expected to be out, for 8-9 months before the next games were played. So that was definitely a little bit different for everyone. And I think last year it was obviously a little bit of a different year as well. There was a lot of new protocols. You couldn't really spend much time with the guys. There was only games on the weekends for our division, and you kind of bust the games, day of the games. And, this year it's kind of back to normal still. We were testing at the start of the year, and we had like 17 guys over Christmas end up testing positive for COVID. So, hopefully the chunk of guys getting COVID is out of the way now. And we can just keep looking forward to the rest of the year and hope for positives the rest of the year and hope for no more outbreaks and just string games together. I know we have some makeup games coming up, so I think those are going to be important for us.
Yeah, no doubt. And like Deana said, you all have faced your fair share of challenges with injuries, with call-ups, specifically in net. And I wonder, especially for you as a forward, how has that affected the way that you all have to play your game? Has it affected the way that you all have had to play your game? And as you look forward to the future, how do you think that is going to affect the rest of the season?
I mean, I think as players, it's our job to play the way we're told to play, as players, and not worry too much about the goaltending. I think if we're playing a strong defensive game as a team, then the goaltender is going to flourish and he's going to have a good game. So I don't think it really matters who's back there. I believe all our goalies can make very key stops at key moments of the game. And I just think whoever's back there, we have faith in them that they'll make the save. And I think that's really important for us as a team going forward.
So we're going to kind of take it back to when you were first getting started in hockey. Edmonton has such a storied history when it comes to the sport. What was it like growing up as a young aspiring player with all of the competition and that kind of environment surrounding you?
Yeah, obviously Edmonton was a very big hockey city growing up. I actually started skating when I was 2 years old. My dad took me to an outdoor rink, threw a puck out there and told me to chase it around. And that's how I kind of got started with skating, and that's how I fell in love with the game. And from a very young age, we would always just play in my basement. He'd play goalie, and he'd let me go on breakaways and rip these little foam pucks at him. So he really helped me fall in love with the game. And growing up, there was a lot of talent around Edmonton, a lot of good players, and I think that helped me as a player. You have to be, I was obviously an undersized guy my entire life. So, you have to be a little bit showy here and there. And as an undersized guy, I was also pretty physical for my size. So I wasn't afraid to, dish out checks and stuff. So I think that kind of got me noticed. And I actually have to correct you on something. I actually wasn't drafted by the Prince Albert Raiders. They listed me after the WHL draft and then never unlisted me. So Edmonton actually just traded for my rights. I was never drafted in the WHL draft. And then I was passed over my first year of the NHL draft. And then Columbus took me in the second year of my NHL draft. So I was very happy for, them giving me a chance and, them believing in me. And obviously now being in my third year in Cleveland, I love the organization and I hope to be a Blue Jacket in the near future.
Well, I appreciate the correction. We'll get that updated for sure. And we'll pass that word along a little bit because we want to get it right.
Yeah.
And I think that just adds to the story, right? I mean, we hear all the time about first round picks and their stories and them going up on stage, shaking Gary Bettman's hand. But I feel like we don't talk enough or spend enough time, thinking about the guys who go in the seventh round, who get passed over in their first year of eligibility. Can you just walk us through, what's it like to get drafted? When you were drafted, how does that feel? What is just the logistics of that? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Obviously not being drafted in the Bantam draft, that was something that kind of really upset me. But then, my dad told me it's not about the Bantam draft. It's about who ends up playing for years and years. So I always just kept that in the back of my head, and I always every practice, every game, I tried to get better, and I wanted to push myself to make that next level. And then obviously not getting drafted in my first year, I thought I definitely had a year where I could have gotten drafted playing in the WHL. And then my second year, thankfully, like I said, Columbus took a chance on me in the seventh round. And I'm just really grateful for them because, I actually, during the draft, I kind of gave up and I turned the draft off in the at the end of the 6th round. And then I was getting ready to go golf with my buddies, and my parents started cheering kind of in the kitchen. And my mom came running in and told me I'd been drafted to Columbus. So I turned the TV back on, and I saw it right there with my own eyes. And it was a very special experience, and something I'll definitely never forget with my parents. Obviously, being passed over in previous drafts, it was just, super proud of myself, and very reassuring of the player that I knew I could be, and knew that I was at the time.
So let's go back to a little bit closer to the beginning of the season. Now, you went viral a little bit on that Top Gun promo night when you came out, with the aviator sunglasses that they were giving away. Did you plan that, or what's kind of the story behind how that all happened?
So before the game, actually, every player got a pair of those, and I was kind of joking around. I was like, I think I might wear these in warm up. And then, I thought maybe some of the other guys would too, but I ended up just throwing them on and going out there for warm-ups with them on. And I only ended up doing like the butterfly and the horseshoe with them on. The vision wasn't very good out of them, so I had to get readjusted the lights and stuff. But I thought it would be kind of funny, Top Gun night, Tom Cruise. So I thought, why not? And kind of get the energy going a little bit early.
It was perfect. You did very well with that.
Thank you.
Now, just kind of talking about the Monsters as a whole, of course, you guys are the AHL affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So there are quite a few prospects that could make the jump to the NHL in the next few years. Of course, there's you, Tyler Angle, Carson Meyer, among multiple others. Is this something that you guys talk about at all, or is the atmosphere different between you guys?
I think everyone knows they're aspiring to be NHL players. I think our focus right now when we're down in Cleveland is focusing on this team and trying to bring success to this team. Obviously, we all want to make that next jump to the next level, but it's up to yourself to put that work in and become a better player and get noticed by the NHL club to get called up. I think we all want each other to succeed. So if it does happen in the near future where we're all up there on the same team, then it would be awesome. And I'd be very excited for all of us.
Yeah, and recently you mentioned in an interview for the Jackets Prospects Pipeline series, you said that you kind of modeled your game and wanted to model your game a little bit after Brad Marchand. Can you talk a little bit about, what the motivation and inspiration is behind that? Can you talk about how it's probably not made you very many friends on the other side of the ice?
Yeah.
What's that been like?
Definitely don't get too many great comments throughout the game from the other team. But I take it, I don't take it personally. I think that's part of the game. It's all sportsmanship. You have to try and get under the skin of the other team and get them off their game. So ever since I was a young age, I believe, like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So I would always try and be physical, maybe try and lay a big hit on a bigger guy. And that kind of gets the team involved as well. If they see me out there being physical, then they know they can be physical as well. And then also just scrums and little stuff in the corner. If there's an opportunity to give a cross check, I'm not afraid to give a cross check or, fight here and there. I have one pro fight and I kind of held my own, so I'm not really afraid to do it anymore. But I think more so just making a big hit or, kind of getting under the skin of the other team and maybe drawing a penalty. That's something that I try and take pride in.
So in that same article, they interviewed the general manager of the Monsters, Chris Clark, and he praised you for just being a multi-dimensional player, offensive, getting on the back check, being explosive, just overall dynamic. But if you had to name the part of your game that's uniquely Trey Fix-Wolansky, what would that be?
I believe my vision. I think I see the game very well. I believe I'm a good skater. I have a pretty good shot as well. But I think just being able to read the game and kind of see plays before it's happening or read plays before it's going to happen, I think that's been super important for my success being an undersized guy, you don't always get the benefit of the doubt. And then obviously being a late round pick as well, you don't always get the benefit of the doubt. So you have to do everything in your power to get noticed. And I believe over the past 3 years, I've really rounded out my game to obviously become more offensive, but also just take care of my own end, and also be able to play against other teams' top lines and not give up too many chances against. I think that's been important.
All right. Well, I think that's all we had in terms of the hard questions, but we do have a little bit of a bonus speed round where we're just going to ask a few fun questions for you. So, all right. What is your favorite pregame meal?
Favorite pregame meal would definitely be spaghetti with half Alfredo sauce, half red sauce, and then 2 chicken breasts with hot sauce.
I like it. I'm
Yeah.
making notes, right?
Yeah.
First pet.
First pet? My first pet was actually a pet fish, and I named him Sid after Sidney Crosby.
Nice. Good name.
Yeah.
All right. So while you are in Cleveland, what is your favorite spot to go to?
Favorite spot to go to? Definitely Town Hall.
Gotcha. So I think there's a town hall in Columbus. I don't know if it's like the same company or not. So when you make your way up, you're gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, it's the same owner.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best vacation location for you?
Best vacation location, I would say Florida.
Nice. What is the loudest away arena in the American Hockey League?
Laval. I absolutely love playing in Laval. It's like a party every time you play there.
So this might end up getting the same answer, but what's your favorite away arena?
Favorite away arena? I like playing in Toronto. I seem to have a lot of success in Toronto. So I always seem to score for some reason. I don't know. It's just something about that arena.
And last but not least, what is your most memorable moment of your career so far?
Most memorable moment is definitely getting drafted to the NHL. Just sharing that moment with my parents. That's something that's definitely something I'll never forget, and I'll cherish forever. And then going and golfing with my buddies after, and spending it with them as well. Just after being drafted, I think that was a great day for me and something I'll never forget.
Now,
How'd you
did they?
after that?
Yeah. Probably like mid 80s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did they at least treat you to the round, or did they make you pay?
No. Now that I was drafted to the NHL, they made me pay for most of it.
All right. Well, Trey, again, one of your fan voted forwards into the AHL All-Star fan vote team. So thank you again, Trey, for your time, and we definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Well, once again, thank you so much to Trey Fix-Wolansky, who is one of your 12 forwards that was voted in on the Field Pass Hockey AHL All-Star team. Again, thank you to Trey. Thank you to the Monsters for making this happen. And thank you to the fans for voting him in, because we had this scheduled and boy, would that have been awkward. So it all worked out well. So speaking of things that could be a little awkward, we're now going to move to our hot take segment known as Swipe Left or Swipe Right. This is the portion of the show where my co-hosts here will give their hot takes from the American Hockey League, and then we will either swipe right if it's a good take, swipe left if it's bad. If we really like it, super swipe up. So once again, we like alphabetical order. We're going to go with Andrew first.
I love it. I just love getting the start off here. So this past week, all the rage there on social media for the Hurricanes was getting the chance to get their Hartford Whalers alternate jerseys out. And I mean, for good reason. They look fresh, they're nostalgic, and the Canes win just about every single game while they're wearing them. So my hot take for this week is that the Wolves, and really any AHL franchise that has a chance to don a cool aesthetic like that, they need to adopt a similar alternate to help solidify their relationship with the parent club. I mean, you got they have the W on their shoulders on their alternates already. form right in with that old Whalers logo. I mean, it'd just be perfect.
I'm kind of brain farting, but who was that club that recently did their retro? Was it Springfield?
I know Milwaukee has some fresh retro looking jerseys
Yes.
that have been looking
That red
really
one.
good this year.
Yeah, right? Like, you don't see that too often in the American
Mhm.
Hockey League. And, like, especially, like, their jerseys, a lot of clubs don't have them. They hardly have an away jersey. So, like, I'm totally on board. And if it wasn't the first of the month, I would probably super swipe it. But I'm definitely going for it.
I think we've talked about this on the show before, right? Where we're like, there's so many opportunities for really cool, partnerships or connections to parent clubs or to the history of parent clubs. And so it's definitely a right swipe for me. I think definitely some clubs have tried it and it's fallen a little flat. But I think at the same time, generally speaking, I think that's more of like the exception and not the rule. So yeah, give me all the parent club content.
I'll just say ditto. Swipe right. That's my right. I might look left to you, but it's my right. So yeah. Okay, Jeremy.
So we talked again, like kind of going back to the last couple of episodes, we've talked about, points per game. We've talked about the ways in which, I think my hot take maybe last week or the week before was that Andrew Podorowski wouldn't end up being the league leader in points per game. But I'm going to take it a step further. I'm not ready to get off of this shoebox. In a season where so many teams are playing so many different games, I think it's kind of just disingenuous for us to name scoring leaders, whether that point, assists, goals, based on total. I think in the same way that we're basing conference standings, division standings on points percentage, I think we have to go points per game, goals per game, assists per game in order to name some scoring titles. And I think, the league sets a minimum, but I think that has to be where the league goes this year.
I was thinking about this. I think there's got to be some kind of adjusted number because for Scott Perunovich, he's been called up all year, right? And I think there should be some kind of different adjustment, whether you're like, for example, Ryan Suzuki has been scoring really well, but he's been hurt for a while. So it's like, are you going to weigh those games where he's been injured along with the same as someone who's been called up? Are you going to award the scoring title to a guy who played 20 games and hasn't seen the league since Thanksgiving, like Perunovich? I mean, because he would be the runaway winner as of right now, according to that. And which should deserve some kind of recognition, because even now we still talk about him every episode. It's kind of ridiculous, but I love it at the same time. And I like the idea, but I don't like the idea of giving the scoring title to a guy who hasn't played since November. I'm gonna have to go left on it.
Well,
I think there's got to be something sort of staying on the ice and staying in this league has to count for something. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think when I say this, I say give it say you have to play a minimum 50 games. You have to play a minimum X amount of games, and then it's decided that way. But also, I think TJ Tynan might be closer to Scott Perunovich than you think on points per game. It's kind of ridiculous.
I haven't been on the fence this hard in a while. Okay. And this is coming from So, honey, your profile just isn't all filled out, dear. You Tinder is still messaging you. You want to fill it out all the way. You do. Right? It's still messaging you, right? Answer the message. Fill it out completely. I agree with Andrew. And then that, what happens if a player doesn't do well for the first 20 games of the season? They absolutely fall off the cart, don't know what they're doing with their life. And then all of a sudden, the last 50 games, whoop, they're point per game player. But because Perunovich was getting 2 points a game, say, you don't get that title. You worked your butt off to get to that point. And I get that there should be a minimum kind of thing, but at what point do you draw the line? And then, this is an every season kind of thing too, is we have these great players who come down to the AHL or start in the AHL, and then the franchise says, oh, you're good. Yeah, I'll stick you up there. Or, hey, this goaltender gets injured. We're going to stick him up there. So people who would have been regular AHL guys, like the Canadians, Montebo, he would have been down with the Rocket if Allen and Price weren't hurt. And he probably would have been a great goaltender in the AHL, probably one of the best. And that's a thing we see every year. But in the roundabout way that I'm trying to get to, I'm swiping left.
The big hang up I have about this is that whenever at the very end of the season, when the AHL announces all of their awards and things, it will always be that asterisk that involves way too much explaining every single time. So I can see why it's not being done, because it is, last season and this season, and I guess the season before, were just these one-off, hopefully never to happen again types of seasons where we have this uneven number of games across the entire league. So as much as I enjoy your profile, I'm not ready for that kind of commitment. I can see the future red flags coming down. So I never do this to Jeremy. For those of you who don't normally watch us, I never swipe left on Jeremy, but I'm going to have to this time.
I don't know that any of us ever gotten 3 lefts. Is this a first?
I'm sure I have. I feel like I
rare for us.
I know I've done the perfect one of every swipe, but I don't know about. We'll have to go back and listen. You want to take
I'll take
for the
swipe
archives.
left hat trick. I'm gonna wear that just as proud as I would have if you all swiped right. So
yeah. Well, Deana was on Bumble tonight when she should have been on Tinder. She's thinking long-term game. I think Zach and I are looking for more.
Can we get a high five? Because this has got to be the first time that
yeah.
Because this is the first time that these two haven't matched. They're like, I like that profile. Every time you chef it up just the way I like it. Mwah.
He has all the perfect pictures of cute, fluffy dogs. I mean, come on. How
He's got the picture of his truck, It's
not trucks, just cute dogs. I'm not a truck.
Am I giving you truck guy vibes, Zach? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. You're the classic. Yeah. Maybe I spent too much time in the wilderness in Canada on Tinder, but you're like the truck guy, man.
All right. So, Zach, what is your hot take for us to consider?
Okay. The AHL, we all know, is prone to whining. Okay. Oh, we don't have enough money. Yes, you do. You have plenty of money. It's just stored away. So I'm a big believer right now that the current scheduling system does not work at all. Okay. We never got to see Gretzky and Lemieux face off against each other because the NHL screwed that up. Right. We can all agree on that. We could have definitely done with a couple more games of that. Right. If he was in Calgary, oh yeah, you'd see him all the time. Either way, I think that in fairness to the teams and to the playoff picture that's coming up, and we see it here this weekend where Ontario is going to Grand Rapids. Not every day you see that. So, I mean, I think that every team should have to play every team at least once. So Cleveland's going to play Stockton at least once, whether it be home or away. And same with San Jose is going to have to play Texas. If it's home or away, doesn't matter. Every team has to play each other at least once, and that gives it kind of the fairness that everyone had to play said team, and they're ready for the playoffs.
So, I've been on the beat for, last year was my first season, and everyone was only allowed to play within their division. And this year, the Wolves' only out of division opponent is Toronto, and then it's just Central Division the rest of the year through. Grand Rapids has opened it up a little bit with the California teams having Ontario and Bakersfield. They're doing a home and home series with each one, and I love it. Like the fact that you get a team that you don't normally see, I figure that's got a cause for a huge interest in Grand Rapids this weekend, outside of having Marty Furt coming back, a longtime Griffin. So I'm all about this. I know it's the first of the month, but I think I'm ready to give this a super swipe because I want this league to be exposed to each other as much as possible, even if it's just for one game. If Chicago just sees Stockton for one game, that one game is going to generate so much buzz in this league because it's going to be top team against top team going head to head. Wouldn't you rather see that more than Chicago, I don't know, drumming Iowa again? Like, that's old news. I need some spice. So, yeah, I'm all about that, Zach.
So, Andrew, just like Trey Fix-Wolansky corrected me, I'm going to correct you. They play Cleveland. Cleveland's not in the Central anymore.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, they were in the Central last year. I always thought that they're still division. That escapes me sometimes. That's on me. That's on me.
Chicago and Cleveland play a week from today, actually.
Right.
So if you all heard a little bing pop up, I apologize. That was the Cleveland Monsters website trying to sell me some tickets, even though I report for them as I was looking up their schedule. So my apologies, but I love this profile. I love pretty much everything about it. It's not giving me massive truck guy vibes. It's giving me sweet humanitarian that saves all the cuddly puppies. And wow, Jeremy is like losing it. But I mean, and this is something we always have to take into consideration is I'm just going to use Cleveland because I know them the best out of all the teams in the American Hockey League, and look at the difference between largely the same squad last season where they ran away from most of the Central Division. The only team they lost, I mean, they defeated the Chicago Wolves in every single game that they played in. The only team they couldn't beat was Grand Rapids, but that's nothing new. But then you take them over back into where they primarily play in the North Division, and they're at the bottom of the division. It's so different between that, and to stick one team mainly playing in one division or one geographic area is, I just don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. So yeah, I'm going to be brave. I love this profile. This is the first of the month. I'm super swiping up. I don't care. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love it. Sorry about my rant. Proceed.
No, I mean, your rant is valid, though, because I think the AHL is not in any way, shape, or form the CHL. But that's kind of like what it is, right? Like the way this is formatted, it's let's make everybody play each other in their own leagues. There is no American Hockey League as it's currently set up. Like there is no league here. It's 4 different leagues that all crown a champion that all then throw them into another playoff. It's not this current setup doesn't work that way. And so, I mean, like, this has definitely never happened. It's 3 super swipes. Like, it's a super swipe for me, too, because it's probably the most egregious thing in professional sports, this scheduling. I mean, like, it is pretty bad. Like, and I don't want to mince my words here. Not a good system. Not a good system. The playoffs are, granted, will be unpredictable. We're not going to know anything about how these teams match up against each other because guess what? They haven't in 3 years. So like, that'll be fun, but it's terrible. It needs to be better. And you're getting a super swipe, Zach. I really wanted to swipe left based on my experience on the app, but I will super swipe you.
Zach, you haven't been on fire since what, episode 4?
And this is way more family friendly.
How long are you holding on to that? Like when did at approximately what point did you decide that you were loading that one into the gun, Andrew?
I don't know. That was kind of just a spur of the moment thing.
Good work. That was good work.
Thank you.
I mean, like, you think about it. They're not all hoofing it to every game on a bus, right? There's no way. So, like, fly to California, fly to Los Angeles, play 2 or 3 California teams, and fly back.
I'm all about it.
Very fair.
Yeah. I can't believe 3 supers on one take on the first of the month.
You can just tell we're all bored. Like, we're all bored with the schedules we've had. Like, we're all like I'm sitting here and I'm reading the schedule, like getting ready for the week, and I'm like, Utica again, which also just sucks, like, to begin with, because how good they are. But I'm just like, man, Utica again? Like, are you sure? Like, are you positive? Like, it's not really much different than last year.
It's like the Canadian circuit. Like, Toronto's always going to play Belleville and Laval, like, over and over. At least it's not like last year.
All right. So speaking of doing good work, we're going to talk about the teams that are doing the good work in our quest for the Holy Grail. So this is the portion of the show where we kind of go over who's doing what are the standings in the 4 divisions. So as always, we're going to start off in the Atlantic Division where, well, it's amazing to see what 1 week can do in a super tight conference like the Atlantic. Whenever we recorded last week, at one point, Providence was first, then they lost and immediately fell down to 4th place, and they have stayed there. Otherwise, everyone's in the exact same order. So you have Hartford, Springfield, Hershey, the aforementioned Providence Bruins, Charlotte, Lehigh Valley, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and the Bridgeport Islanders.
I mean, we
I was just gonna say, we all know Bridgeport's making a climb. Like, we all know that we're at this point now where, like, Zack dared to say the name, and so things are going to get even more complex in that division.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
watch out for Wilkes-Barre, 7-3 in their last 10. As if there isn't enough chaos in this division. Like,
hey, that's what happens when you
the
play.
Penguins are going to make a run. Yeah.
I mean, and that's one thing too. If you look at the past 10 games for all of these teams, everybody but Springfield, who's in that number 2 spot, has a winning record. You know, you have Bridgeport. They're at the bottom, but 5-2-2-1. Wilkes-Barre Scranton 7-3. Charlotte 7-3 in their last 10. Hartford 6-3-1. So it is a very competitive division. I know we've talked a lot about the North, but I'm starting to turn my sights to the Atlantic.
And I don't think that any spot is confirmed. And I will dare to say it, that Bridgeport does not have cement shoes on. Watch out. They do not have cement shoes on. They have a chance of 7th place. There is an actual chance they may clinch the second last spot.
Fair. All right. Well, we're going to go to the North Division. And I was going to say, talk about team with cement shoes. Oof. It's almost status quo in the North, but Cleveland has finally fallen to the number 7 spot. I mean, what number really stood out to me whenever I compared this time last week to now is the Monsters in the penalty minutes. Last week, 413 on the season. This week, 488. Now, 27 of those alone came at one time to forward Brett Gallant.
I feel like that's kind of to be expected.
Well, it's kind of funny. We're going to go on a little side rant here, apparently. Lately, the last few seasons, he's kind of trended away from that typical enforcer, tough guy type of role. Like, he still has that, I wouldn't say persona, but it's just not who he is anymore. He's really adapted to the change of the game, but apparently it's still in him. He was going after Michael Chaput all weekend, and it culminated in 27 minutes of penalties all at one time, sunk Cleveland down. But otherwise, the division really, is status quo. The only changes were in the bottom. So we have, again, those amazing Utica Comets the Rochester Americans, Toronto Marlies, Laval Rockets, Syracuse Crunch. Belleville moves up to number 6, and Cleveland falls down to number 7.
I'm probably going to get shunned for this. Okay. We were talking a little offline after the last podcast. Don't they have a obscene amount of empty net goals that they allowed as well? Like, we're talking like mid to late 40s here. Cleveland. Is that the same team I'm thinking of, or is it like another one that I'm getting confused with real quick?
It probably is. There's a lot.
We were going through it. I was like, "Oh man, look at that!" You know.
I don't even remember anymore. It's like I just look at that goals for versus goals against, and I just
that's enough right there. I promise I will say no more about Cleveland.
No, in this household, we love the Cleveland Monsters. I have every confidence that they will get it figured out, and they do not have cement shoes either.
So what team does?
They might have cement sandals though.
But they can kick those off. You can get out of cement sandals.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
The only person who can take those sandals off is Daniil Tarasov. So,
yes, listen to the Monsters Musings podcast because I go over my keys. Shameless plug. I think it was 4 keys to get the Monsters out of the losing column and into the winning column, and Daniil Tarasov is one of those keys. He was watching, apparently. All right, so moving on to the Central Division. The Griffins, wow, they had a rough week, falling from 3rd to 6th. Otherwise, we got the same order with Chicago, Manitoba, Rockford, Iowa, Milwaukee, the Grand Rapids Griffins, and the Texas Stars. Andrew, what happened to Grand Rapids?
You know, it wasn't even like they grinded out, you know, a couple of just tight, tough losses. It was just, oof. They had a game against Chicago and to start their weekend off. And, you know, you'd figure it's a team you haven't beat in 6 tries. You got to come out firing, right? No, they tried to mess around and find out. And then before they realized, Chicago had more goals than Grand Rapids had shots, 3 with 7 minutes to go in the second period. 33 minutes of hockey, and they had 3 shots on that. And then they follow that beautiful game up, with a 5-0 loss at Milwaukee, who's just on fire right now. A team that they smacked around to start the season. Now Grand Rapids can't figure them out. There's my Griffins rant for the week, but it's special teams. Special teams is killing them right now. They have the talent to have a good power play. Whether it's bad puck luck, I know they've hit a bunch of posts and they've had their chances and just couldn't finish. They're second to last in the AHL in terms of power play. Their penalty kill, last I checked, was bottom 6. I'm sure the 3 goals against Chicago didn't help that at all. And so if you get them playing 5-on-5, they're a good team. I do believe that they're a good team. They ran into just a buzzsaw and the Wolves, and then up in Milwaukee. I don't think they have the cement shoes to take them all the way to the basement. But Texas is starting to show up in the rearview mirror if they don't figure this one out.
Well, Texas has a better record in the past 10 than Grand Rapids. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming around the track.
When you lose 5 straight games, that'll do you.
Yeah, just for comparison with Grand Rapids in the last 10, 2-5-2-1. The Texas Stars 4-4-1-1. So that's a race to watch.
Mm.
All right. And finally, rounding it out in the Pacific Division. Again, this week, a lot of leapfrogging, jostling going on in the center and the bottom of the Pacific. But as it has been all season, you have Stockton and Ontario just leading the league by far. Those Colorado Eagles keep surging their way up. They're on a 10-0-1-1 streak. Just
is that good?
It might be.
Do you
Stand by while I confirm.
Earlier in the season, it was actually episode 1, I think, where we were like, these are the 3 teams that haven't won a game: Lehigh Valley, Colorado, San Diego, and these 3 teams are bottom feeders, blah, blah, blah. And now here we are. San Diego is doing everything they can to make us look smart. But other than that, I mean, like, Colorado's looked great. Like, Colorado is almost certainly in most other divisions contending for a first spot. It's just that they're going up against the mega teams of Stockton and Ontario. It's fascinating.
You know what I find really fascinating that I've just been kind of looking right now? So the North Division, for example, has 2 teams with a positive goal differential. And I say that loosely because Rochester is sitting there at +1. So even the Central only has 3 teams, thank you, Iowa, with a positive goal differential. The Pacific Division has 6. They got, obviously, your Stockton, Ontario, and Colorado with the way they've been playing lately, but Bakersfield is sitting there +9. Henderson's +6, math's hard, and then Abbotsford is +2. I think that kind of just shows the quality of hockey that's going on out west. Like, you gotta wonder what Abbotsford is thinking sitting there. Like, we got a good team, but that's tough. It's tough to get traction when week in and week out you're going up against another solid squad one way or the other.
I mean, Abbotsford might just be one of the true winners of that expanded playoff format this season, where in a tough, stalwart division, they can still sneak in and maybe make some noise.
Make a run.
Maybe the North just needs a star like Evander Kane or something to kind of light up the team a little bit and kind of get the old juices moving in the locker room.
Hey, you never know. He might make his way to Bakersfield by the end of the season.
I have the shifty eyes going on. All right, so just running down the standings. We got Stockton, Ontario, Colorado, Bakersfield, Henderson, Abbotsford, Tucson, San Diego, and San Jose. All right, so those are your standings. Now that you know where everybody stands, how about we give you our opinions on the game of the week? Again, this is all done in alphabetical order. So, Andrew,
start us off.
So for the Atlantic.
Yeah, in the Atlantic, I got I'm picking Friday's matchup with Springfield going into Hartford. You know, these 2 teams, they just keep yo-yoing around those top 4 spots in the Atlantic with how chaotic everything's been. So I want to see, here's a chance to try and distance yourselves from the rest of the pack, or my preferred manner, create more chaos.
Well, a team that has potential to create chaos in the Atlantic is cross-divisional opponent Cleveland, playing Hershey this weekend. It kind of like reminds me of a couple weeks back. I talked about Rochester having the chance playing Belleville to, really separate themselves and really, drive up the division. I think Hershey's in a similar spot. Cleveland, not playing great. You have a chance right now to elevate yourself, to solidify yourself as that number 1 in the Atlantic. They'll lose both games. Cleveland's winning both of them. Mark it here. And it's just, again, that chaos of the Atlantic that I just have to pay attention to this weekend.
Well, speaking a bit of chaos, we got a barn burner a week from now. Boy, oh boy, Lehigh Valley and Belleville, the game of the week to watch. I say that because at some point you have to start playing playoff hockey and remember, hey, there's actually a small chance that we may actually make the playoffs if we try. So this is the chance to prove that. And we're going to start seeing that sooner or later in the AHL with all of these teams. So maybe this is the time.
All right, let's set our sights to the north.
All right, I'm going with a Wednesday game here, and we're going the Utica Comets going at Springfield. So yeah, I'm double dipping a bit in the T-Birds here, but anytime you get a chance to see top competitors from outside your division, it really provides that measuring stick from where you stack up to the rest of the league, kind of as we alluded to earlier with Zack's take. I think Springfield still has something to prove when, in such a tight division race. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
And speaking of something to prove, I mean, Rochester and Toronto, right, doesn't get much better than the fight for second place, which really has been the only attainable, higher. Utica's where Utica is. You're not getting any higher than second in this division. But man, Rochester, it's been how many weeks that they've sat in second place in the North, and Toronto has a real chance to make that no longer. I think they're separated by like 3/1000ths of a points percentage right now, maybe 4. Definitely something one game can solve, and maybe it'll solve it this weekend.
Yeah, and I got to go with Utica and Springfield as well. I think that Springfield is starting to get the roster that they had on opening night. And I do think that they actually have the chops to be able to stay up near the top of the division. So I hate to kind of double dip there, but like when you have 2 top tier teams going at it, you're going to be watching.
All right. Speaking of top tier, Central Division has just been crazy. So a lot of really good opportunities for picks. Andrew, what do you have?
I got Saturdays. Well, they play Friday, Saturday, but I like going with the second of back-to-back. The Chicago Wolves going into Milwaukee to take on the Admirals, who are hot right now. And they get not 1, but 2 opportunities to take their best shot against the division leaders. It ought to be a formula for some hard-fought hockey this weekend in Wisconsin. Must-see series.
Well, then I'll go with Friday's game because that's the series that I'm watching, but I'll avoid double dipping. That has to be the one, right? Milwaukee's so hot. Chicago is Chicago. It's a real test to see if Milwaukee's the real deal or if they've just been playing the Griffins a lot, which could just also be the answer to why Milwaukee's where Milwaukee is. So we'll see.
Stab me in the heart.
And I'll be seeing how the Griffins do against Ontario. I think that, like I said, I alluded to it earlier, like when we get these out-of-town games, I want to call them, where you just have someone like from completely out of nowhere coming into your barn. That's something pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to be watching that. And you know what? Chicago's been good. Grand Rapids. Let's start again. Grand Rapids has been good at some point during the season. And, they're going to have to start playing some Pacific opponents to kind of see just how good they are.
All right. So speaking of the Pacific Division, you know what? Let's just take a look at the division of as a whole. Guys, what are your picks? Andrew, you're up.
Yeah, I think our longtime listeners know that I do love me some Colorado Eagles, I should say. But I think I'll stick to my beat here and go interdivisional with the game that Zack just called, Friday, Ontario at Grand Rapids. Again, it's a rare case of a California team making the road trip to Michigan, and fans of Grand Rapids will see Marty Furt coming back to town, and that's going to be fun for them. What's probably not going to be fun is the rain giving them the old Chicago Wolves treatment this weekend, and I'm going to give you guys a bonus second hot take this week. I think Ontario scores at least 10 goals this weekend. I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be real bad.
I think TJ Tynan might score 10 goals.
We'll
be
see.
honest.
But I'm going to write that one down. And just like we checked in with Jeremy after the Rochester-Cleveland series, we'll check in next week, see how you did.
Well, hey, anytime you've got the 7 and 8 going against each other in the division, I don't know how you don't pick it. San Diego and Tucson, I think, what's interesting is, again, like the Gulls have been real bad the last week or so. I think they've lost their last 5 and have really kind of like taken themselves out of the conversation for a second. But I mean, really, again, this is the fight for the last playoff spot. We'll see what happens. This is going to all look different here in 3 weeks, but it's fun for now, and that's why I'm picking it.
And if no one's going to be picking Colorado games, I will, because I think that when we talk about Colorado and they're going to Bakersfield on Saturday, they've been drinking some of Andrew's mystical, magical Kool-Aid. Okay. They haven't been drinking any of my lemonade. I can tell you that. It's not entirely sour as you think, but the sweet, magical, I don't know. They're just so, they're good. It'll be a good game.
Where did this episode go? It was going straight and narrow, and all of a sudden we started talking about mystical, magical Kool-Aid.
I'm surprised it took this long.
I know, right?
You got my lemonade, or you can have some of his Kool-Aid. The choice is obvious here.
It is?
Oh,
no.
Oh, it is.
It is. Just don't get any.
I promise I didn't pay Zach anything to promote my Kool-Aid. This is all free advertisement here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, we are just about towards the end of the show, but as always, we have a bonus round. Now, as the winner of the bonus round last week with the slightly odd jersey ranking portion of the bonus round. I guess I won that one, so I have the bonus round this week. Okay, guys. This week's bonus round is all about the AHL All-Star Classic in commemoration of us naming the All-Star team earlier on in the podcast. So, most correct answers wins. I do have a tiebreaker. All right, so these are 3 multiple choice questions. Okay, so here we go. The AHL held their first All-Star event in the 1941-42 season. In which city was it held? A, Cleveland, Ohio. B, Hershey, Pennsylvania. C, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Or D, Providence, Rhode Island.
Are we just saying them out loud? Or are we like taking? Okay, I'll go. You're a homer. I'm gonna go. You're a homer. I'm going Cleveland.
Okay. So we have Cleveland. Andrew says Hershey.
Yeah,
Zach?
Chocolate Town all the way.
I was going to say Pittsburgh, but I do think it's Hershey because why not?
So Jeremy was right. It is Cleveland, Ohio. It is the only All-Star game that they have hosted.
Oh, wow.
OH. Oh, yeah. All right. Now, the AHL All-Star event has been held outside of the U.S. 5 times. Which Canadian province has hosted it the most? Is it A, Quebec, B, Ontario, C, New Brunswick, or D, Newfoundland and Labrador? Okay, Andrew's locking in B, Ontario.
I'm gonna say Newfoundland for Zach.
Okay, Jeremy, D.
Trying to count up all the times I couldn't get tickets. I'm gonna. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to say Ontario.
Jeremy, again, with the correct answer.
Yeah.
Newfoundland and Labrador have hosted it twice. Once in 2002 and again in 2014.
Is the next answer Chicago or Rochester? Because I'm feeling like maybe it is.
No. Okay, now this answer is going to be this is kind of a fun question. And while I was researching my questions for this bonus round, I came across a YouTube video that was the inspiration for this question. So, okay. But no, the answer is not either one of those things. Okay, so in the 2012 All-Star Classic held in Atlantic City, New Jersey, the Chuck-a-Puck went terribly wrong. Why? Was it A, the fans started throwing their pucks over a minute before they were supposed to? B, all of the AHL mascots were still on the ice and got pelted with pucks. C, another all-star competition was happening on the ice and the participants were getting hit by the pucks. Was it D, children were on the ice and were inundated by pucks? Or E, in the craziness of Chuck a Puck, the Whale and Penguins mascot collided and proceeded to fight? Or F, all of the above?
It's got to be all the above, right? Because I was loaded up for another like pelt the mascots because I was hoping for video to be attached. But as soon as I heard the mascots were fighting, that's got to be it, right?
That's F. It has to be F. It's one of those things where it's like you can't have all those choices and then include all the above and then not all the above.
F in the chat. F in the chat.
F's in the chat. All of those things happened. It was children competing in the other competition on the ice when the foam pucks started raining down.
There's got to be video of this, right?
There is. I could not get in contact with the copyright owner of the video in time to show it, but I'll link it to you guys a little bit later on.
Yeah, I'll be watching that on my
I'll take that. Yeah, that'll be some post pod watching.
Yeah. So yes, all of the above. So Jeremy, you are the winner. Congratulations. You got all of them right. But just for fun, because we do have a couple minutes here, the tiebreaker question, just to see if you got who would have gotten it. So in 16 all-star events, the format was Canada versus the world. Of those 16 times, how many times did Team Canada win? Closest wins, you can go over.
All 16. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Canada. Woo!
Wait, it was 6 or 16?
There were 16 total events.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, Canada, baby.
Andrew, Jeremy?
I'll say
Care to
10.
take this? Andrew
I'll
says 10.
Oh gosh. Oh
Dollar it.
God, no. Yeah, I have to dollar you, right? I have to. I have to because it's accessible. Guys, all right. Let me know in the comments below. Up or down $1. Should I go up or down? Deana, should I go up or down $1 from 10?
Go up.
Oh, don't tell them.
I'm gonna say 9. I don't believe her. 9.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, that strategy doesn't work whenever someone has the exact correct answer, and it was 10.
Oh,
Andrew.
All right.
Oh, with
I
the
like it.
So
It's all bragging rights at this point, though, because Jeremy's the winner.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. And that is going to be it, guys, for the Holy Grail this week and our special live episode. If you joined us live, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing, liking, all that stuff. If you're joining us on Thursday on our normal day, thank you as well for listening. We wish you could have joined us live, but we're happy you're here anyway. But again, if you like us, please subscribe, like, share, rate this podcast, tell all your friends, shout it from the rooftops. And if you really like us, be sure to give us all a follow on Twitter. You can find me at FPH Monsters.
Oh, do I talk?
Yeah.
Oh, FBH Marlies, all the way.
You can find me on 2 different sources, either FPH Wolves or FPH Griffins.
And you guys got the trend now. FPH Americans is where you can find my content.
Yeah, I realized all these weeks we've been telling people to follow us, but we never told them where we were at. So there we go. And then, of course, you can find all of our written work and previous episodes of the Holy Grail podcast at fieldpasshockey.com and the Field Pass Hockey app. And be sure to check out all of our other podcasts inside the SPHL with James Hayes and the 3 Periods podcast with Matthew Harding and Matthew Bill that will go over several hot topics about the ECHL. And we have 2 other AHL podcasts here. Syracuse Speaks with Alexander Ackerman. Syracuse Speaks is a Syracuse Crunch-centric podcast focuses on maintaining a balanced perspective in the ever-shifting world of minor league hockey. And you have the Monsters Musings podcast with Jay Foster and myself. At Monsters Musings, we discuss all of the storylines, good and bad, around the Cleveland Monsters. Now, on behalf of all of us here at the Holy GrAHL, we hope you have an amazing week, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye.
This has been the Holy GrAHL podcast. Have a question or a topic suggestion? Hit us up on Twitter or drop us an email. For the latest news across the American Hockey League and the rest of minor league hockey, download the Field Pass Hockey app, now available in the Apple and Android app stores.